Okay, so here we are on our DOS, Joe Lisette representing Nerd Rage Gaming. We're here, Nerd Rage 5K Finals. Players are ready. Let's go to the table. I don't know if I just said modern. I meant legacy. Let's go. Christoph Schlom versus Joseph Bernal. The players are ready for us. Izzet Delver Mirror. Last match of the weekend. Let's tell these players to go ahead and start. And here it is. The 7 versus the 8 seed.
That's hilarious, right?
In the finals.
Yeah.
Christoph Schlom expected to go second in every match he played. So did Bernal, but here you go.
It's the one that counts too, right? This is it for the first place for the trophy, and so it's a good surprise here.
Okay.
Now, I know the Delver Mirror is interesting to watch, but I think there's a lot of stuff that we can learn here, especially from these two master players duking it out here. So again, we're going to see, I think this matchup is all about just making sure, step one, as every Delver Mirror Age of Old has dictated. Step one, make sure your mana is functional and online. You see a lot of decks nowadays playing 19 lands in as respect for, you know, the Delver Mirror, because this deck is very good. So I want to see, you can see Bernal already has the Wasteland. We're already trying to make the non-games, if you will.
Right, looking for the free win that you can get if your opponent just has one land, which is possible. Now, that's interesting, though. You're talking about 19 lands because, you know, in years past, the standard was 18. Everyone ran 18. And so it's kicked up one. Another, certainly, a feature of these games is that now that there's such a heavy hitter in, and Christoph returns the favor in Murktide Regent, and Julian had a lot to say about this also this afternoon, and we saw it play out in real time. Murktide Regent really just defines game one, especially because it's so hard to deal with.
Right. And if you look at deck construction too, this is where Bernal actually has the edge. 2 copies of Brazen Borrower that we saw make very good moves in the Cloud Post matchup. Meanwhile, Christoph has 0. So this might just be the Brazen Borrower diff showing up here in the finals in this Delver Mirror. In exchange, though, Christoph does have more copies of Mishra's Bauble, which means that your iterations are better, which means that you're likely to get Delirium faster. It also means that Murktide Regent can come down sooner. So consistency versus power. This is a tale as old as time, if you will. We'll see how it impacts this game.
All right. So ponder for Christoph. So Joseph with no play on his third turn, which is just the Flood Strand. So we're our turn 3 here as these decks. We've just basically time walked twice off of the Wasteland exchange. But more, as you said, more cards in Christoph's graveyard. No creatures have hit the board yet.
Yep. Really interesting. I honestly don't know how to... Okay, actually, I do have a couple thoughts. So first things first, I said make sure that your mana is online, that you actually do get to play the game, right? Then you finally get to enter the dance, right? And when I say the dance, I mean the Delver Mirror is actually one of the most pleasant matchups to play. It is very skill testing. It's just there's been so much Delver that, you know, we tend to overlook that. But when I say skill testing, there are a lot of things you need to consider, right? You need to consider how you sequence your spells. A great example, how do you sequence your lands? Like if you put a fetch land into play versus a regular land into play, what if you have like a Delver into play and you want a cantrip afterwards? All the micro sequences, they actually do matter a lot. This is another thing too. Basics. Do you fetch up the this, or that? The cards that I'm most interested, there are 2 cards. The first one you mentioned was Murktide Regent. I think that's going to be the powerhouse of the matchup. If it goes unchecked for like 1 or 2 turns, lights out, game over. Second card that I think is very important is Expressive Iteration. In a world of trading 1 for 1, you know, Bolt for Delver, Blast for this, you know, Chain Lightning for whatever, Expressive Iteration is the deal breaker, right? It allows you to get 2 cards for 1. Similarly, if you get a card Force of Will, you're pretty happy about that because you traded 1 for 2, and you can convert that card advantage into maybe an extra threat that goes unchecked, so on and so forth. So these are the cards that we are on the lookout for throughout the match. We'll see how they play out, whether they resolve, how players want to deal with that stuff.
Yeah. So really, we're thinking Delvers and Dragon Rage Channelers are just kind of fodder here. There are Lightning Bolts in both players' decks, and there are 1-drop creatures, and they're just going to get picked off. They're not... I don't think anyone's expecting to win games just based off 3-point hits. Here's a Delver. And so consequently, we're unlikely to see a whole lot of resources expended to remove them. I don't think we'll see a 1-drop forced either in almost any circumstance.
Yeah, unless it's like a very, very like close situation where, it's like game breaking or something like that.
Yeah. Christoph considering a Daze here on Delver and even hesitant to do that.
It's very interesting too, because a lot of this matchup boils down to information, and the way Christoph just played this turn, it's like the paper effect. This is not something you normally see on Magic Online, but the way Christoph pulled the card out and then put it back in has to be Daze. So now if Bernal can pick up on that, realize there is it, or it could be just like the nth level bluff, but it isn't in this situation. Now Bernal gets the heads up to play around this card for the rest of the game, and it's going to be there's a chance this Daze is just dead.
Right. Although it will work to protect this lightning bolt here, and even if Bernal, it would work if Bernal wanted to fight over it. He may not. So this Dragon Rage Channeler will get a trigger, and I feel like that's what you're really hoping for from Dragon Rage Channeler. If you get a few triggers, it did its job. You're just paving the way for Murktide, and that's going to happen here.
Value on the margin.
Yeah. Take down this Delver.
Wow, and I love this actually. So we saw the Daze earlier, and the reason we didn't use it is because we want to use this Daze to protect ourselves from their Daze. Sure. Fantastic. That is very minute, and it makes a big difference because now you get to convert Lightning Bolt onto the Delver of Secrets as opposed to Daze on the Delver of Secrets. And the ramifications of this are huge because turn 3 is a pretty critical turn in the sense that that is a turn where Expressive Iteration is live. So you see how you can push back that development by a turn, leverage the tempo in a certain way. Not so much here against this Murktide, though.
No, you're absolutely right, though. But then, things are going to flip here. Here is a Murktide. There's also one in Christoph's hand. Looks like there's several in there. This is not going to be a huge Murktide, but it's also the first one. And Bernal's just exiling everything he's got, really. Wants to play around Daze and does so.
It's really interesting, too, because, one player had the Delver on turn 1, one player had the Darcy on turn 1. I mean, in this situation, I think the Dragon's Rage Channeler is just better. And it's kind of crazy to think that a card that was printed within a year has become one of the most premier threats of not just one, but like 2 or 3 formats,
Yeah. Okay, fetch for Christoph, so he's got enough mana, and if he has Delirium, that Dragon Rage Channeler is going to chump attack, so he's going to hopefully be able to undo Delirium with his own Murktide Regent before that, and that is indeed what's going to happen.
Cool trick that you can use to prevent yourself from that fate. And you do have Delirium, by the way. There was a Bauble on turn 1 off screen that was played, so Dragon's Rage Channeler does have Delirium. This is one way to go about it. Exile your graveyard with Delve from Murktide Regent. If you don't have Delirium and you're afraid of proccing Delirium, when you cast your spells, you can always also move to the second main phase. That's a vintage play with regards to like mana drain and things like that. And then and try to prevent yourself from attacking willy-nilly that way.
All right, so we're going to see Christoph exile at least 2 spells here, I think, because you want to have the larger Murktide. There are at least 2 spells in the graveyard. Potentially a few more. Can't catch sight of everything over there. Ooh. Does this surprise you?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's like sometimes this is Murktide's ego in check.
Yeah, I mean,
a 4/4 meets a 4/4, and they're all having fun. So
there is another Murktide in Christoph's hand. So he's trying to save spells to go into the second one, which would then pump them both. But being the larger one on the board would mean that Bernal can't attack, and that seems valuable as well. We'll see.
Right. It's just it's hard because you're both at very high life totals. One at 17, one at 16. So how do you gauge the value of 4 points in this context, right?
All right.
I'd really like to see this bolt get dazed. And here's why. Bernal has demonstrated an understanding that Daze is just a card generally to play around. That comes with caveats. Sometimes you are supposed to play around the Daze. Sometimes you are supposed to play into the Daze. Sometimes you make the read that they don't have the Daze. In this situation, the way this game specifically has been played out, with that turn 2 sequence of bolt your creature while I'm tapping out, also plucking the card out earlier and putting it back in, I think it's just abundantly clear that Bernal has knowledge of the Daze that can make the read that there's a Daze. use it, get your value out of it, move on. You know,
Mhm.
I don't think you're going to get much more value out of it later on. Also, Dragon's Rage channel or trigger too.
Yeah. It does prevent Christoph from being able to potentially set up next turn Expressive Iteration into Murktide, as now there won't be enough mana available. But I agree with you. This Daze wasn't going to do much. It wasn't going to get any better. And
Yep.
keeping a Delver on the board, I mean, this Murktide's only a 4/4.
Yep.
Here is Iteration for Joseph. Christoph's like, oh, okay.
An interesting question is whether or not Bernal has any copies of Dazes in his hand, because this is the turn where you could theoretically just go big, right? You have Daze and Ponder that you can exile. That gives you a 6/6 and a 5/5. You definitely have an advantage with that regard, but if this Wasteland is going to connect with the Volcanic Island, then you are taking a very, very big risk here. So the question is, do you take that risk?
Okay. Well, there is Wasteland off Volcanic Island. I'm a little unclear, so maybe some viewers are too. What's the risk that you're referring to here?
Of Daze. There could be like a Daze.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Or in this case, another real risk is the third copy of Wasteland in Bernal's hand. A lot of things could go wrong.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that they don't. So
yeah. So that Wasteland prevents Christoph from effectively playing Expressive Iteration this turn. Bernal looks like 3 cards in hand. Christoph with a Brainstorm and Iteration of Volcanic and a Murktide could run out Murktide right now. Even if it gets countered, Christoph's Murktide will be much bigger than Bernal's. That might be worthwhile.
Yeah, and then you just start the offensive.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to exile any cards from our graveyard to deny ourselves Delirium. Yeah, okay, good play. I like this.
Okay, so spell count in there is at least 2.
Yep. Triggers on the stack, and then it's dragon time.
And okay, there is a Daze. So you spoke about that, and you were right. But Christoph can now start swinging in for 6, which is not insignificant. And then Bernal's case, what do you do? If you have your own second Murktide, well, then you're kind of covered. But if otherwise, very quickly the situation is going to be out of control.
Right.
Definitely.
Now, what's interesting is at 10, you're literally dead on board, right? 1, 3, 6, 9, 10. Yeah. But Bernal's deck actually has 3 main deck outs to Murktide Regents. So there's a chance that.
Yeah. 3 main deck in addition to his own other 3 copies. So 6 ways to deal with this here. And we're going to see another Murktide. Okay. That looks like 3 spells. So Joseph will be ahead in the Murktide battle.
Doubly so, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, and now the game seems a lot harder to pull back from because
yeah, Christoph chose to run. Both players ran into a Daze. Christoph did it second, and so it feels like he got hit harder.
Yeah, and oh, interesting. Not attacking. Okay, maybe afraid of the Pyroblast, the main deck Pyroblast. Yeah, but like just Christoph doesn't have extra lands, right? I think we got to peek at the hand.
Yeah.
So
right,
with only this,
Yeah.
with only this one Volcanic, I'm not really sure how we're supposed to get through all of this.
Okay. Well, Brainstorm with Dragon Rage Channeler has dug people out of similar situations in the past, but yeah, a lot to get through here. Is that a Murktide just got binned?
Ha!
Oof.
Makes sense, I guess. Can't cast it.
Yeah, I mean, can't cast it, but that's
main deck Pyroblast. Wow, dude, look at that. That's what I'm talking about. You see, like Bernal is playing against these slim edges, but this is what you do. This is how you become a great player. You look at you analyze the decks. You say, okay, there's like a 5% chance that I lose to this line. I can afford to play around it, and I will. And I do not attack with that first Murktide Regent. You could have gotten the 7 points of damage in. You would have just died if you did.
Even so, if that is the Pyroblast and Christoph checks things over, shoots down the large Murktide and then attacks and forces a trade, then Christoph will just own the board at that point.
Yes, that much is true.
And now if Bernal were to find the equivalent and draw his own Pyroblast, he would only have a Delver to hit. So does he have to take the damage here and just hope to draw a Petty Theft or a Pyroblast?
That might be the case. I mean,
Oof.
combat math is definitely your forte compared to mine. So if you say so, I believe you, Joseph.
Well, I mean, that's the reality of it. I don't know what the right decision is.
Right.
Bernal does choose to trade.
Looks like a red card was picked up there.
Sure. And
that's pretty good.
Yeah, Lightning Bolt here would be solid.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. I haven't been able to put this into words, but for a long time I was wondering, just like, vanilla creatures in Legacy are typically not that great. There are very few that make the exception. Delver of Secrets is one. So then the question is, how much power is enough power? How much power is too much power? Tarmogoyf is a card that is phased in and out of Legacy so many times, and right now it is not in the format, but that's because Murktide Regent completely outclasses it.
Mhm.
Right. Also, Murktide has flying. So how much power is too much power? I feel like every game where Delver is able to leverage Murktide Regent to deal one chunk of damage, like one attack, that's when things get really crazy and you're able to win the game with just like chip damage and like bolts here and there. And Christoph has got that first hit in, which is very important.
Oh, look at that. Other Daze finds a home, picking up Bernal's Delver. And I don't know if this Dragon Rage Channeler has Delirium or not. It's certainly close if it doesn't, but there may not be a sorcery.
That's the one card type or artifact either.
Yeah.
So it might just be a 1/1.
And there is Expressive Iteration, I think, still in hand, or else in the top two after that Brainstorm. Yeah, I think we're just in for one here. Oh, there's another land. So Christoph may have had the choice there. Here's an iteration from Bernal. Christoph may have had the choice there of just casting a 1-for-1 iteration and getting in for 2 extra damage, or holding out for the 2-for-1. And that seems to be the choice, and that's reasonable.
Yeah, and that's the game breaker right there. First iteration could snowball into many more, and this might just be the end game here for Joe Bernal. Take this match down. Very close here. Fetching. Do we have another Murktide Regent? No, we have Mystic Sanctuary. Okay.
All right. Picking up, well, Bolt or Iteration are the two likely choices. There's the iteration.
Yep. This is the gravy tray. This is what I'm talking about. One iteration into another iteration. We'll find another iteration, and oh my goodness, this card is just as egregious. Wow. Very powerful. Very, very powerful.
All right, Christoph. Here's the iteration that was buried in that Brainstorm, and the Pyroblast. Ooh, that was Bernal aggravated with himself at revealing before Christoph surveilled that was what he was going to do. Jumped the gun slightly there, but okay. Christoph bins a Force of Will. That was likely to happen anyway.
Yeah.
Iteration gets countered, and now this is probably an attack for 3 damage. Joseph, to be able to recast iteration here, could have chosen Lightning Bolt, been able to clear the board here, but instead goes for the longer term advantage.
We're at 5. This is spooky. Oh, yeah, and the iteration does proc Delirium as well, so that's where that giant chunk of life went. At 5 is kind of risky.
Wasteland, Daze, and I believe Dragon Rage Channeler are the cards.
3 very good cards.
Let's see. Does Joseph also have Delirium? I believe he almost certainly does. And Wasteland number 4, maybe?
You have sorcery, instant, creature, land. Yeah, this is the 3/3. So I don't think there's actually a lightning bolt, which is really. I wonder how that has actually changed the course of this game. Because if Bernal had a removal spell, maybe this game would like these past few turns would have played out like much, much, much differently.
And a ponder. So Joseph setting up the future turns as well.
Oh, do I bin it? Do I not bin it? It's a bauble. Okay.
Yeah, that pretty much always can go in there almost for free.
Oh, this looks not well. There's an iteration. Iteration is great, But the other two cards there were Force and Daze. So I guess maybe you can sequence where you draw the Iteration, then draw the Daze, and then just don't take the Force.
Well, you can drop one of them on the Surveil,
Mhm.
and then that might work out reasonably well. I mean, we're almost at Hardcast Force mana.
Yeah.
Although Daze is actually really strong right now. Christoph has 1 land.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask you, like, think about this match. How is it possible that both players have the same board, the same hand, yet one player is up 3 lands, right? That is an insane value advantage.
Yeah, definitely. Where are we paused at now? I don't think Christoph drew a card yet, did he? He had 1 card in hand before.
I do not
Oh,
believe
maybe
he
this is an upkeep. Yeah, okay. Lightning Bolt on the upkeep. I think. Yeah. Joseph says Surveil first.
Yep.
If you're going to do it at all.
Dang.
Daze.
There's another one.
Get back. Mystic Sanctuary.
That's hot.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I wish I had not seen that. Oh.
Oh, this is what Julian was talking about, setting up the 6th iteration game where you cast all 4 and then you have Mystic Sanctuary and then Daze of Sanctuary to get 2 extra ones.
It's literally been iteration every turn for the past 3 turns now. And there's another one in the pile. This is absurd.
This is how you do it.
Yeah.
Joseph Bernal knows the score, knows what's important.
Do you understand now why I call this like a Hymn to Torok equivalent? Like it's just go away. I don't want to see you. Oh man, powerful.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Undeniably powerful.
5 life, probably enough to play with here for Bernal. Firmly in command of card advantage race and the mana battle. Can Christoph recover from this? I don't know.
No creatures in play, so it's not like either player is like. I mean, you have draw steps, and Christoph is at 14. A number of Murktides are gone from both sides, so it's basically going to be like, each player attacking with like 3 at a time. So there's a couple draw steps. It's not like the Schlom is out of this game, and that's another reason why I do think Delver mirrors are very exciting / interesting / fun to play, is because games don't just end over one decision, right? It's a multitude of game actions that will impact, and very skill testing ones too. 100%.
Joseph falls to 4. I counted 2 of Christoph's lightning bolts in the graveyard and exile, so I think 2 remaining. Joseph falling to 4, so even an unflipped Delver plus a bolt would be lethal. However, there's virtually no way for that to happen, as Christoph would flip the Delver by drawing the bolt. So going for 5 to 4 of no real difference.
Have you ever done that before, where you don't flip your Delver when you have like a crazy card that you just want to keep hidden?
Dude, I've only flipped a Delver probably like 5 times ever. I don't play
I got the confession. Everybody, he's played it before. All right. I'm going to Twitter.
Oh, there's a Murktide coming in.
Bonk. Okay.
Well, that's probably going to seal this one, as this Delver's not swimming in the same pool as the Murktide Regent. 5 cards out of here.
You know what's also there's still the Mystic Sanctuary too, so if you really wanted to, you could Sanctuary the Bolt on top. Actually, I guess I would sequence it a little bit differently. I'd probably go Murktide first, then play the Mystic Sanctuary, get the counter, and then iterate, and then Bolt the Delver. 5 mana. Seems pretty clean. Strong turn.
Okay, well, there's a fresh Lightning Bolt.
But yeah, this is some sort of absurd. Oh, I know I sound like a broken record, but this is some of the most powerful Magic I've seen in like the history of me playing Magic.
Mystic Sanctuary has done some scary stuff in different formats. In Modern, it was just playing multiples of them over turn after turn. Here, with just a single copy in the deck, Bernal just playing it twice.
Mm-hmm.
And then Murktide comes in as a 5/5, Bolt the Delver.
Woo!
Daze.
Wait a minute.
How did that even happen?
Wow, it's not the turn 10 days, Joe. It's the turn 20 days. Always live.
Okay. Well,
let today be the day that just like damns anyone who says, yeah, Daze is just dead. Don't play it. You know what I mean? Like, beautiful.
Well, Bauble on Bernal's not going to do much, as Christoph already knows what the card is on top of the deck. Steam Vents tapped.
And the crazy part too is you're not even allowed to really attack with the Murktide.
No, probably not. Not without finding a second creature or another removal spell.
If you're playing around like a main deck Pyroblast, like we saw earlier in the match, is there really any world where you don't play around Bolt here?
Yeah,
Okay, well, I guess you draw.
Yeah, Dragon Rage Chandler will do just fine. And then I think we will see an attack as Bernal's going to want to end this game. Murktides aren't built to hang back on defense. 8 damage across. Christoph can survive 1 turn, maybe 2 if his Delver flips. But even then, it would just be a futile chump block. It's a pass. It's a game for Joseph Bernal. All right. Well, that was a battle.
Take a deep breath. Breathe it all in. There was a lot to consume there. And I know like underneath there's this like thick layer of debris, which is like bleh, Delver. But underneath there's like that fine pork belly, which is delicious. There was some good magic. I will tell you that much. There was some good magic. Both players were in really tight situations. They maneuvered. Joe maneuvered from a losing situation into a winning situation and then just locked the door. Said iteration 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. GG.
No,
it wasn't close. Yeah.
Iteration and Murktide are the cards that dominate these game ones. Let's look at the sideboard where the big difference, as we all know, this isn't a secret to anybody, the big difference after boarding is that Murktide is much easier to kill.
Yes.
So in that case, does the important card of the matchup now becomes, instead of its iteration and Murktide, it's now just iteration? Is that what, can we say that now?
I don't know. I don't think so because Pyroblast is good in consideration as well. I think they both still matter. Again, life is a resource. I've played other video games and things like that, and I've learned that you leveraging your life. I mean, like in Magic too, right? It's just a thing that you learn very quickly is that it's a resource you're allowed to deplete. And so if Murktide still gets to connect even once, 6 points of damage, it was a really close game. Christoph was so behind and still had backdoor outs because of the 6-point hit that Murktide did. So I think it's going to be very important. I think you have to. You still have to respect it, right? You don't just get to not respect Murktide anymore. But iteration is also a card that, you must find a way to handle either A, with your own iterations or B, with, just on the stack kind of deal. So looking at the sideboard here, a lot of stock cards you're going to bring in here. Pyroblast is a very good one. Submerge does not have text in this matchup. Yeah, actually, I think it's just Pyroblast is the slam dunk, and then other cards I'd consider are Narset, Part of Veils, and then End the Festivities is conditional. There's like an asterisk on that one because that one can be either very good or very bad.
Right. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at Joseph Bernal's side. While pondering the question, Onrog said other video games. Does that imply that he thinks Magic is a video game? Because I certainly wouldn't say
baby.
So.
Let's go.
Yeah. I think Magic and Wizards have very clearly abandoned the esports moniker.
That is true. Literally, the Twitter account is now defunct. So if you haven't already, at PlayMTG for your latest and greatest updates. But
that was kind of amusing to see that change. All right, so same Pyroblast in Joseph Bernal's side. No End the Festivities, but a Snapcaster Mage. That seems okay.
That seems more than okay. That seems incredible. Yeah.
So Snapcaster Mage functioning as an additional iteration, an additional Pyroblast. Maybe an additional cantrip. Really, when you have Expressive Iteration to mess around with, you just wait for that. Fire off the big one.
Get that Murktide Regent synergy in. You see, it's a pump spell for Murktide Regent. That's why we have it in our sideboard.
So it looks like Christoph has submitted the deck already. Joseph is still shuffling up, and we're getting ready for potentially the last game of the day. Presentation on the way. All right, so Christoph.
42. Oh, I thought you were going to ask me a question. He's shaking his head. Oh, man.
Christoph, keeping the opening hand. So this may be your last chance to follow, to stick around to get announcements of future events, to admire our new tournament playmats for the feature match area. All kinds of good stuff going on here at Nerd Rage Gaming. Both players keeping, it looks like. Maybe.
Oh, it's blue badge. You never mulligan in these kind of matchups. Even if you have a hand that doesn't have lands, you never mulligan. It's fine. We know you're gonna keep, Joe. It's okay.
I mean, we saw the no land win already this weekend. So if you need inspiration, go back and watch that one. Okay.
Oh, this
both
is
players keep 7.
Toxic hand here from Christoph's side. I see turn 1. Land, Delver, and then 2 copies of Wasteland?
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
That makes sense. Get them while you can.
Yeah. Is there stuff non-committal here about either whether he even wants to play the Delver?
Mm-hmm. Now, what's really interesting too, I think, in this kind of deck, your Delver of Secrets is the kind of card that you normally think to yourself, oh yeah, I'm just going to slam this card on turn 1 because it's a Delver of Secrets. What else am I going to do? But interestingly enough, I would never really call this matchup a tempo matchup, right? I think here you are playing blue-red control against blue-red control, except your spells only cost like 0 mana, 1 mana, or 2 mana. So Delver of Secrets doesn't even necessarily have to come into play this turn if you are, afraid of things like Wasteland on your only red source or blue source or whatever, things like that. It's not traditional Magic where you want to just play land, use mana, do this. You're actually playing a control deck, and that's why it's so intricate. That's why it's like watching a ballet.
All right, Delver is in there. That was interesting. Christoph gave a lot of thought there on whether playing that Delver, and then there might even have been a consultation with the judge. I don't know what slowed that down there, and I think that's the Narset in hand.
I do like the pen cap on the deck. That's a new one. I haven't seen that one before.
And there is a bolt on the Delver, but that will open the door for Christoph to fire off the Wasteland. I've told you, I'm sure you've heard me talk about the shoe on the deck, right?
Shoe on the deck. Wait,
oh
no,
my
this
gosh. All right.
what?
If we have a moment here while these players develop.
You say Artifact Commander. Now you're saying shoe on a deck.
Ooh, Wasteland from Bernal's side. It's gonna. That looked like it. There was some passing there, so maybe an upkeep Wasteland. But all right, yeah. The shoe on the deck briefly. This was back in the day of pacts in Standard, I believe, or pacts at least in qualifiers. And there was a player who cast a Pact of Negation in a PTQ, playing against. I was sitting kitty corner, I believe, playing against the player sitting next to me. Took off a shoe and put it on top of his deck. A judge walks by the table and is like, "What is this?" And the player says, "This is to remind me to pay for my pact." And the judge says, "I don't want your shoes on the table. That's like a health hazard. Take your shoe off the table." The player sighs, takes his shoe off, puts it back on, and believe it or not, untaps and dies to the pact because he forgot.
No, that's so funny. That's like Judge Lethal. Have you heard of like Chat Lethal? This is the judge equivalent. Like, oh my god, that
was like, I don't know when those sets were out. That was like 12 years ago or maybe more, and I am not gonna forget that one.
That's so funny. Oh, 911. I'd like to report a murder. Oh, that's unfortunate. Okay. Well.
All right. So
very interesting.
A few interactions here. We are having a board clear at Bernal. No lands in play. We did see both players get wastelanded.
Did we just daze the volcanic? I'm so confused. It seems like we dazed the lightning bolt, which was paid for by a wasteland. I'm sorry. I was so caught up in that shoe story that I missed out on the happenings. So
it's bad commentary by me. Then I didn't mean to distract you. I was trying to
no. It was a great story. That was
sure, but I wanted to get it over with before anything actually happened. And I thought
that's fine. It's fine. There's a tapped wasteland in play. That must mean something. So it means that we want to use the mana from wasteland to cast our Narset. Nice. Okay.
Okay. So island in hand. Narset is pretty strong. I mean, vulnerable to a lot of things and does not stop expressive iteration, but stops everything else.
Yeah, I like this. Make him have it.
All right. Well,
tell me the money.
In a sideboard game, do you leave it at 5? Do you minus? It is vulnerable to Pyroblast.
I am punching Narset down to 3 all the time, every time. Unless like a new card gets printed that says if Narset's at 5, you win the game.
Fair enough.
Yeah. This matchup is largely about value. For the same reasons that iteration is so powerful, Narset 2 is very strong. And on top of that, Narset also stops all the cantrips in the world. So it's a 2-for-1 right here. Clean.
Yeah, there it goes. Delver added to the board. Christoph with double Pyroblast in hand, I believe. And
I mean, it's so
Delver.
interesting too, because like going back to my conversation earlier about like how this is like a control mirror, right? Like perfect proof of this was that before, like when Ragavan was legal, people weren't even playing Delver of Secrets. It just didn't do enough. Like the vanilla beatstick is not what the matchup is about. You said it earlier, right? Like this is not like one creature is not going to go the distance unless something else happened that went horribly wrong.
Well, this is. Let's see. Does Christoph have enough mana to make this work? The other option to play this turn was just Wasteland and then play Delver and leave up Pyroblast. Instead, Christoph goes for the exploration, the expressive iteration. There is a fetch land, so we'll be able to take advantage. We'll have to put shields down as far as Pyroblast goes, but that's not a huge problem as Murktide can just be untapped and killed anyway.
Right. Iteration also not likely to be cast this next turn cycle, so.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Delver dies to a bolt. And Wasteland probably being cast here from Christoph. Yep,
Yeah, definitely
there you
activate it here. You've got a massive mana advantage in all the right ways, so 100%. And now we see, okay, another fetch land. So Joe Bernal's not out of this game yet.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Very interesting decisions here. So I want to reflect on this decision because like, I feel like it's going to make a big deal. But Schlom decided to take Daze instead of another lightning bolt off the iteration. We saw one bolt take care of the Delver. The other card was the decision point was between lightning bolt number 2 and Daze number 1. And we decided to take the Daze here, right? And it looks like we're okay, not even close. This is instantly rewarded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not going for full value by saving the Daze for 10 more turns for the Mystic Sanctuary, but pretty good use there anyway. And does have a threat with the Delver.
Yep.
Probably. Yeah. Second Volcanic back down on the board.
All right. Bauble targets you. Oh, no. Bauble targets myself, and then we fetch it away. Must have been something not desirable. Okay. So it's still pretty close here, but I do certainly feel that Christoph is ahead. I would be surprised to see if Bernal had a similar amount of cards in hand compared to Christoph. But also, Bernal's just been playing out of his mind in this event so far. And in general, usually does. Like, I mean,
that's the way he rolls.
Yeah. A lot of other games, you know, there are some players where you like ask yourself, like, well, I have this play, but if they have it, I lose. And Bernal always will have it. Like, you know, you navigate the game. He always navigates the game to the point where, you know, he's able to punish. So.
All right, so we're, I think, moving on to Christoph's upkeep, which is disguised by the fact that he forgot to untap his island. But, yep, that's where we are. Delver does not flip. Bernal draws off the Bauble.
Oh, and then the second skill set that every good Delver player has is they always flip their Delvers. So,
Well,
actually, you know, maybe I take it back because Bernal's Delvers have been misbehaving today in this tournament. You know, they've been like, nah, I'm just chilling, you know?
Christoph does have 3 islands in play now, so this fetch land could turn on Mystic Sanctuary and let him replicate some of the fun that Bernal had last game.
Will be a little bit harder because Pyroblast is a much more relevant factor in these post-board games.
At the very least, though, it will guarantee that Delver flips over.
Yes, which is still relevant, right?
Yeah.
The one way you punish Dirtling is just by shoving a 3/2 into the red zone. Bernal still, I think, resolving this Brainstorm. We'll have to put a couple cards back. Or may have already done so, but a lot of cards in hand there, so.
I think you're right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we would have noticed if he had 4 or 5 cards in hand. It feels like it's been more like 1.5.
Yeah, exactly, right? I mean, this is what happens in these matchups. Like, it's just, it is a war of attrition, a battle where you're just like, all right, like kind of how we saw in, what was that match? It was Hobbs against Piper, and it was just, it got down to the point where it's like play creature, attack, kill the creature, play another creature, attack, like that low level of a slog. That's what these Delver mirrors are all the time. You're off like no mana. You have no mana. You have very few cards in hand. You've got like one creature in play. Honestly, the more I describe the situation, the more it just feels like some sort of like weird masochistic experiment where Delver players they just enjoy it. Now I don't know. You know, I'm not one to judge. I'm not one to judge.
Okay, so this brainstorm finally sorted out, and Joseph got a Delver to deal with, but that's like not a high priority. The bigger issue is get his own stuff going, get his own action, whether it's Murktide, whether it's Expressive Iteration. There is a bolt on the Delver. This will change Christoph's potentially play, whereas before fetching Mystic Sanctuary was extremely valuable. Now it's probably still the play, but not locked in like it would have been.
Honestly, I feel like it's a lock no matter what, right? It's just
Yeah.
given the hand, I think especially because we know there's Pyro, and then Force of Will.
Mm-hmm.
Seems pretty good. So
Christoph needs offensive action. He's got the defenses covered.
again, if there was like one of those advantage bars, I'd definitely say it's in Christoph's favor.
Mm-hmm.
It has the man advantage, has the hand advantage, and now is converting both of those into the expressive iteration advantage. Question is, does Bernal have the critical Pyroblast to make it through this turn?
No. So
Okay.
iteration will resolve.
That's big game.
Dragon Range Channeler, Daze, which is increased in value dramatically now that there's Mystic Sanctuary on the board.
Yeah, we're getting closer to the turn 10 Daze power spike. Don't worry, it's there.
And Channeler. So Christoph, no Pyroblast mana up this turn. So if Bernal's going to draw an Expressive Iteration, this would be the turn to have it.
Gonna get a banger one time. Is that Mystic Sanctuary that he drew? That's so crazy that this could be the turn where, because of the colors and fetching, that basic island. Actually, Mystic Sanctuary could not have been tapped. Never mind. You have two red spells. Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
He does have it. Yeah. Okay. That's got to be a bitter pill for Christoph to deal with, as multiple counters for it in hand, and it just slips through anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But Christoph didn't really have the option to not do that. If the Dragon Rage Channeler, maybe you wait to play it a turn if it's in your hand, but because it was an iteration card, it had to come down this turn.
All right, there's the Sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
We know we're drawing into an expressive iteration. You know, this is kind of interesting, actually. I'm looking at one card in the hand here for Christoph that stands out to me in the post-board game, and that is Force of Will. I'm pretty surprised to see that left over, because it's generally speaking not a card that's great in this matchup. Vulnerable to Pyroblast, puts you down on cards when you're playing this 1-for-2 battle. There was an era of Delver mirrors where keeping Force of Will in was actually pretty correct, pretty powerful, and that's usually when the answers that you played, like Lightning Bolt and whatnot, were not really good against the premier creatures at the time, like True Name Nemesis and Gurmag Angler. So that's when it made sense to keep Force of Will in to counter creatures or protect your own threats. Now, not so much, because everything just dies to Pyroblast.
Exactly. Okay, here is the action that Christoph was looking for. Oh, lots of spells in the graveyard. Does want to keep some ammo for Mystic Sanctuary in case it gets bounced and replayed. Also has to consider the possibility that Bernal just has an instant kill for the Murktide. So a bevy of lands and a Daze.
Very interesting.
Okay, 4/4. So going for the minimum.
So this would scream to me that there's another Murktide Regent generally.
Yeah. Or just that he's optimistic when it'll come, or that he's not confident this one will live.
Yeah.
Any number of possibilities there. There's the iteration for Bernal. Here's the cast, and
here's
this one is not going to resolve.
Yeah, there's zero chance. This card is just too good in the mirror.
Okay.
Ooh, kept the card on top.
That's exciting, I guess.
I see Force of Will, Pyroblast, and there's one more card in Christoph's hand that I'm not sure of.
Another iteration, and there's another. Oh, this can eat the Daze, right? Isn't there a Daze? Don't play the Pyroblast. Play the. Oh, the Daze is gone.
Oh, it is Double Dragon. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's the Pyroblast. No Surveil required. Christoph knows what the card is already.
Lightning Bolt. Can we? Is this just game? Is it over? This game? No way.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7 plus 5, 12. No, not. Wait.
Okay, never mind.
Well, hold on. Christoph has Force. What does he have? Lightning Bolt.
Force, Murktide, and Bolt.
No, it's 1 point short.
Okay. I think despite that, though, you just go all in here, right? You play the Bolt.
Definitely play the Murktide.
I do expect to see 5 instants leave the graveyard now,
yes,
right? Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. And this is such overwhelming pressure, not just because you have 2 Murktides, but because of the mana base on the other side. Basic Island was fetched up just to play around Wasteland. There's only 2 red sources. With 1 card in hand, you either have to have the nuts, like blast, or you have to like iterate into the nuts, and you don't even have the mana to iterate properly. So it's not looking good.
Right. Okay. Bolt takes down Delver. Attack 4, 12 if there's still Delirium after that Murktide number 2.
Ouch. All right, game 3.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, you're getting your money's worth for your free viewing experience here at Nerd Rage Game today, as we're going to game 3 of the finals.
Feel it. I can feel it, Joe. The weight of this match is like it's late in the day. Like we're almost done. We're so close, but it's like final boss, and it's the hardest boss, and we're like half HP, and I don't know, if we're gonna be able to make it through. This is like it's tense. Each of these games has been like a lot. It is a grind, and playing this match on Magic Online is one thing, but playing it in paper in a tournament this long feels like I'm literally watching that. I'm not even playing that. I'm watching it, and I'm already feeling the pressure and the burn and like the fatigue kicking in. Imagine what it's like for these players. They've got a lot on the line here.
They've been playing all day long, so they're definitely tired, and most of them are playing yesterday also.
Yeah.
So most players in the field, I believe these 2 players were both playing yesterday also. Yeah. So, and it's been a long day. It has now been 12 hours since we started. You and I kicked this off this morning when it wasn't even light out, really.
Yeah.
And here we are. Game 3 of the finals. We went to the max. Joseph Bernal, by virtue of being the number 7 seed, actually has the choice of being on the play for the game 3 of the finals. And I don't know that we're going to see, much different. There's Christoph is actually making changes to his deck.
Ooh,
I don't know what that would be. Maybe it's a Daze. Maybe he decided the Force of Will wasn't great since it actually didn't amount to much there.
I do think Daze is somewhat incredible in these mirror matches. Force of Will, not as incredible. Again, just the same dynamic of it being a 2-for-1. You saw in the very last situation, we didn't even have a blue card to pitch the Force of Will. We did, but it was Murktide Regent. Are you really going to pitch a Murktide Regent? No. You're probably more likely to let pitch like Delvers, Ponders, Brainstorms, that kind of thing. And those are all good cards in and of themselves. So it's going to be tricky here as players are recalibrating for the final match. The play draw experience does impact how you play out your Delver mirror, right? Mm-hmm. We saw in both games, turn 1 player, was able to deploy some mana and then had Wastelands to mitigate the other the opponent's gameplay. And game 1, Joe was on the play and won, and then game 2, Christoph was on the play and then won. So who knows? Game 3 might be Joe Bernal's if we're doing some like shallow pattern analysis. That is where we might be.
Now, okay, here I just occurred to me. So both games we're seeing players just exchange Wastelands right off the bat, right?
Yes.
These Wastelands don't tap for relevant mana for the most part. So you're just hoping your opponent got stuck with only like 1 colored source and then they'll just die, right?
Yeah.
Alternatively, we have seen games go long and Mystic Sanctuaries get turned on. Do you hold back a Wasteland to be able to pick off Mystic Sanctuary and prevent like this Daze trick of being able to recast? That's a super late game plan, but both games went to the super late game so far.
So basically, if the game is not decided by Wasteland cheese early on, it's going to go long. Just by virtue of both decks being exactly the same, Ponder, Brainstorm, and you have the exact same tools, the exact same amount of removal, so on and so forth. Games will go long, and you will whittle away at resources. I don't think it's worth it, though, despite that,
Sure.
because, I mean, yeah, it could dictate the pace of the game and things like that, but using Wasteland to, like, deny opponents of colored mana at the right time, at the right place. I mean, we saw, like, Wasteland also can cast a couple spells. Like, we saw it tap for colorless, that,
Yeah.
was for Narset, could even work for, like, a Murktide Regent. There are some scenarios, where it's actually important, so.
All right, so here we do see Wasteland from Bernal, hoping Christoph doesn't have another 1 or 2 dual lands or access to them. I think the Mystic Sanctuary might be in hand. That's really not going to do any good.
That is a flooded Strand, right? Also, it's not like this game is just over on the spot, no red source, no blue
No, I don't
source.
believe so. I think it is Flood Strand. Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay. ETB Mystic Sanctuary at this stage of the game would be really rough.
Yes, it would. All right, Ponder complete for Joseph. Yeah. Flood Strand it is.
Another Volcanic Island, most likely. There's a really interesting article, or maybe like concept/theory. Jerry Thompson wrote this a while ago, and it was the idea that basics actually mess up your mana base more than duels. Sorry. Yes, yeah, that's correct. Because let's say you get basic, and then you get a duel, and the duel gets wastelanded.
Yeah.
You're actually left with fewer colors than before. If you had just gotten duel,
I see.
yeah, you would have
Okay.
had more colors available, right? So
Yes. Yeah. But you did guarantee yourself getting to 3 mana at one point. So
right.
if that's okay.
Exactly. So that's the kind of thought process that must come into mind right here when you see Christoph fetching up this island as opposed to a volcanic. Like, we do not have, I mean, I really do hope that we have red mana. I see Mystic Sanctuary, but I don't know if I see another land. So it's possible that we might end up drawing into Pyroblast that are just uncastable.
All right, another Delver for Joseph, and yeah, maybe you're right. Is there? Yeah. So Christoph guarantees stable mana, potentially at the cost of red for a few turns. I mean, there are obviously plenty of red sources counting the fetches in these decks, but there is variance in Magic, and sometimes you make choices, and okay, here's another Daze. All right, Delver, you're out of here. So Christoph, that would also suggest to me that he's a little worried about the mana. If there's not a good land to play next, I believe there's a.
Okay, there is a Scalding Tarn.
Yeah. Okay. It looks like it's fine.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Now, like, imagine if you fetch a volcanic here, that vault gets wasted. You have an island that you tutored up. That could have been a volcanic, and you could have pyroblasted, right? So, second wasteland here will be very, very, very strong. Stronger than if it was. You get the point. Yeah. So
yeah.
Now we are simply developing lands. It's kind of interesting to see where this game might proceed, because there's a possibility Schlom taps out next turn for an iteration. And that's where we might see the quote unquote bounce back, where Bernal pyroblasts it, shields are down, and then we get to play our own iteration and snowball that lead.
Yeah, that is certainly a difference between Murktide and iteration in Sideboard games. Is Murktide, if you can sneak it in while your opponent's tapped out, doesn't really matter. They can still kill it. But iteration, the advantage is baked in. When you resolve it, you're good. So can't be undone.
So that's where patience becomes it becomes very key. And the player that waits longer, I mean, this is how control mirrors usually play out, right? Like, tapping out is a nightmare-esque situation. The player that waits the longest generally is most rewarded. There are situations where you're put under the gun. Ooh, Snapcaster Mage. Okay, that I like.
So this is going to be a Snapcaster for a Ponder, it looks like. And this is something where, Christoph, do you burn a Pyroblast here? I think you do. If you've got one.
Interesting. I
disagree.
I don't think I would.
Okay.
Sure, you get a 2/1, but how much does that matter?
Well,
I'd rather be able. Yeah.
I was going to say, in the sense that every valuable creature gets burned off immediately. Snapcaster represents 2 damage a turn. Because as we can see, like there's no Delvers or Dragon Rage Challengers that are living. So it does represent a straight 2 for 1, is you get the Ponder and then you get an attacker, which has to be, bolted or trade off or whatever.
See,
So
that's a very interesting thought to me because I feel like nowadays that's not really the case. Snapcaster Mage combat-wise has not aged as well because of just like look at the stats on every card that gets printed nowadays. They're 2-1.
I agree with you in current Legacy that Snapcaster Mage doesn't hold up as well. But in this particular matchup,
Okay.
I mean, every creature gets bolted or pyroblasted on site. Like how many? Like we don't see Delvers exchanging fire here. They're not attacking past each other. There's nothing.
Fair enough. Yeah, there's probably never a chance for Dragon's Rage Channel can even block or Murktide. They'll just be taken care of. But huge turn here. This turn, Christoph is able to resolve the Expressive Iteration. There's a Polluted Delta in play, and that means you immediately pick up. Bernal does not have a Pyroblast.
Right. Good point. And Christoph or Daze. And Christoph does have another iteration in hand.
Maybe this was maybe Bernal, by process of elimination, does Bernal just have iterations of his own? And looks like the answer is yes.
All right. Back the other direction.
All right, Misty, Scalding Tarn, and a Brainstorm. Wait, was that a Misty? Probably not.
I agree there was a Brainstorm. I didn't see the third card.
Yeah. All right, quickly checking graveyards.
Yeah, they're full.
Hit him with the upkeep bolt. Bet. Just do something completely crazy. Get inside his head, Joe. You could do it.
I mean, Bernal, I feel like, is a player we have seen in the past boarding Surgical in matchups where you wouldn't necessarily expect it, just trying to pick off random value cards. If Bernal Surgical's Expressive Iteration here, it would be 1 in character and 2 great because Christoph does have another one in hand.
Yeah. What are the other cards? I see a Ponder at the bare minimum. Oh, and a Mystic Sanctuary that we've known about for a while. Oh my god, it's actually a Surgical. Why else would you pause here? Oh my god. It's actually a Surgical?
I don't know. I didn't actually see it for myself. I was just, if he's got it, this would be the time for it. So
no. There's no way. There's no way. That's such a crazy card. I mean, I understand it. So very old school thought. Wasteland the Volcanic, Surgical them all away. Good game. Because I think there's a Steam Vents. That's the only other red source.
Right. Yeah.
That's so funny too, because there's a Volcanic in the hand as well. So if you went after the one in the graveyard, you'd just get value out of it, but it's like not great. It's a very high variance play, which is why you don't see many people commit to it.
Yeah. All right. So Volcanic, and this must be a Murktide then. Yes, it is. Christoph will save the other iteration for the future. Now, if it's even on his radar that Bernal is a tricksy type of player who would potentially board in Surgical in a situation like this, you would absolutely want to exile your iteration because that's the card that's in your hand. So if there's any spells getting removed here, that would be the one I would pick.
And picking up from the clue earlier, there's a chance that we don't need to worry about Pyroblast, so. But then again, also Iteration looked into 3 cards and we had a draw step as well, so I would be surprised if this resolves. Oh no, it should resolve. You just untap and then Pyroblast to play around Daze. Sure, okay, so it resolves. Okay, that's reasonable. The positioning of Bernal's hand, it's like, for the camera, it's like just in the perfect position where you can't really see it too well, and that adds so much suspense. It's great.
All right, so there's a Ponder, and I believe we know there's a Brainstorm in there already. Ponder gets shuffled immediately. Didn't have to think about that one at all. So game 3 of the finals was all the stakes in the line. Bernal's like, oh, this Ponder is so bad, I'm not going to waste brain cells even considering it.
You know, you rarely ever see that. I feel like the turn 1 Ponder in any Legacy game never shuffles, especially when Delver's playing it. I don't know. I just don't see it usually.
Yeah, well, securing the land drop or the Delver flip does seem like it is commonly valued. Okay. Not done yet for the turn.
But wait, there's more. Right, there's the basic island. See, now this I don't. This one should just very clearly be a volcanic, right? Or maybe there are 2 volcanics already gone, and you don't want to lose 2 life to esteem vents. Okay, I can understand that.
Okay, expressive iteration. Let's keep the cards flowing. Daze, Wasteland, something. And so it does perhaps appear like this Murktide is going to get to connect at least once for Christoph. As if Joseph had something like a Pyroblast, I imagine he would choose to do that before having to tap out for it.
Well, let's see what happens. Okay, another Wasteland. What else is there? Very tricky situation. You know, it's funny too. I'm looking at the other side of the board. This Mystic Sanctuary that's been stuck in Christoph's hand the whole game finally will be able to do something, unless that Wasteland. Maybe it actually won't. I don't know. That's kind of crazy. Just thinking about it. I don't know.
You're right. That has been there the whole time and not been able to get shuffled away. And yeah, probably still gonna be stuck too. And I mean, that is a very specific reason why Bernal would not want to be hesitant on this Wasteland and just fire it off. Bang, there you go. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's what it looked like was happening, but no, it just goes into play.
Okay, there it is on the
There
upkeep.
you go.
This Mystic Sanctuary, once again, will not be doing anything. But Bernal is tapped out. You get a clean shot here to do some damage.
Mhm.
I don't know if we actually have the capacity to put another Murktide Regent into play this turn, given that we have Mystic Sanctuary exactly in our hand. If it was like another volcanic or an untapped land, then we could ponder into that, and that would be big game. But we don't, so we can't, so it's not.
Christoph plays around Daze here by pondering instead of iteration. Does also have Bauble in hand. Finds another iteration, I believe. I feel like that's all we've been saying is iteration, iteration,
Yeah,
iteration.
I know, right? And that being said, you know, like, can't go over it, can't go under it. So maybe we're going to see with the second iteration there, we're just going to drive straight through whatever potential counter magic there is. And this is a really weird thought, but I think we're at the point now where we attack here, play the Dragon's Rage Channeler, do Mishra's Bauble and Dragon's Rage Channeler things, and then just slam that tapped Mystic Sanctuary. It's not getting any better. And I think you're at the corner. You're like so close to like you can taste it here. This Murktide has already attacked once. Yeah, there you go. See,
Oh, that's so tough.
it really is. Yeah.
Giving up the pump on the Murktide too. But yeah, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
All right, so no Surveil here. So Christoph liked all 3 cards on the Ponder. Wow. That's a little frightening for Bernal, I would imagine.
Now, this would be incredible if from this board state, Bernal is actually able to come back. It looks like step 1.
I don't feel like he's. I mean, he has several cards in hand. I don't feel like he's completely buried or anything by any means. If the Murktide gets picked off, he's totally fine.
It's just the pacing, the actions. It feels that way, but I think you might actually be right, where it's actually not as scary as it sounds or seems. Maybe this game would end up being like that is a Mystic Sanctuary in the hand here, right? Just at the top.
Well, there's a Murktide.
Yeah.
He can't seriously be making it a 3/3, right?
Is this the legendary? What? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And he pulled a 5 land.
It's a 3/3. Oh, this is the play. Make a 3/3. Make an 8/8. Sanctuary the iteration to the top of the deck, and you have two 8/8s.
Well,
So you
he can play Sanctuary here and make it a 4/4. That'll work.
Oh,
that's nice.
Right. So you have an 8/8 and a 9/9. Boom.
My goodness. Well,
What is this? Are you kidding me?
yeah. This is pretty good. Okay, so let's rewind it back. I don't know, 85 seconds, where you were talking about, let's see if Bernal can dig his way out from underneath this bad situation. And now with an extremely strong board presence, Christoph has iteration, but doesn't have an extra red mana. So iteration into a Pyroblast here requires land as well.
Yeah, well, we kept the card on top,
Yeah.
which is a very good, a very good start. There's the Pyroblast.
There's a Bauble. Okay, Pyroblast goes to hand.
How many Volks have been wasted at this point?
I don't know, but I don't think there's one available. Yeah, we're looking at 2 iterations. We're looking at 3 red cards in hand and 1 red source in play. These extra iterations, they're not going to be able to be cast. I think Joseph Bernal is about to win this tournament. I don't think Christoph is going to be able to keep up.
Dragon's Rage Channeler has to attack.
Oh, yeah, toss that one away. That's unfortunate. And Bernal can just, I mean, pretty safe at 12 life, can swing in here pretty comfortably.
Has literal lethal in play.
Yeah.
And an iteration on the top. I forgot about
that. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Joe, I'm so sorry I ever doubted you for even like half a second. Oh, that was the biggest mistake of a half second in my life, just period.
All right. Expressive Iteration may even be unnecessary at this point. Pyroblast can go for the win this turn.
You listen to K-pop?
No.
There's
you can't be surprised by that answer.
There's a song I want you to check out after this song. It goes G G G G G. Sorry.
Okay.
That's crazy. And yeah, I mean, this is it, right?
I mean, I think so. Christoph's hand is, I believe, iteration, Pyroblast, maybe? That's a net total of 0 interactive cards.
Our camera did freeze.
It froze. I cannot believe this.
I think it literally froze on the mainstream too. So, yeah, I can only imagine this is literally just tap creature side, tap mana sideways. Oh yeah, I guess we.
Okay, and it's over.
And we'll never know who won. Oh
gosh. Nerd Rage Gaming, you're bringing you the very best in Magic and a questionable level of technical proficiency. Hope you enjoy the show.
It's okay. It's okay.
All right. So, Joseph Bernal freeze frames his way to victory against Christoph Schlom in the finals of the Legacy 5K Delver Mirror. Well played. Murktide Regents just, I mean, did we ban the right card?
That's a good question.
Probably.
Sometimes I wake up in my sleep after thinking about Emrakul. I think about that. Like, I mean, just like sweating, man, sweating.
All right. That's it. The Magic is over. Let's look at the.